Hi, Scrappy friends, and welcome to my channel. And Happy New Year, everybody. Can you believe that 2022 is already gone? I can't believe that year went by so incredibly fast. I really hope that you've all had a happy, blessed holiday season. I sure did. I was able to get together with friends and family and create more memories that now I can get some more scrapbooking done. So today is actually a very exciting day for me because it's January 2nd, 2023, and this marks the 1-year anniversary of my YouTube channel. That's right, I started a year ago, January 2nd, 2022, and you know what? I'll go ahead and I'll link that video at the end of this video if you haven't already seen it. It might be good for a chuckle or two, but yeah, I started a year ago, and I want to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you who are watching this video, whether this is your first time here or if you've been with me since day one. I really appreciate all of you. I appreciate all my subscribers. I appreciate if you've shopped on my Creative Memories website, if you've clicked that like button, or if you've left me a comment. All of those are wonderful ways that you can support my channel, and you have supported my channel and have helped me grow over the last year. So thank you, everybody. From the bottom of my heart, I truly, truly appreciate it. Okay, so today we're going to do something a little bit different, and I want to talk a little bit about my scrapbooking goals and one direction that I kind of want to take for this year. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the camera around and we'll get going. Okay, hold on, we'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and my question to you is, do you make scrapbooking goals? Because I do. Every year I make scrapbooking goals. I write down how many pages I want to do or which albums I want to work on or complete. And I've been doing that for several years now. But this year I've set a little bit different scrapbooking goal for myself. I did the same. I want to do a certain amount of pages and I want to work on certain albums. But I also want to focus more on journaling. I want to put more journaling into my scrapbook albums. And by that, I mean I want to be intentional about my journaling. So in this video, I want to talk about journaling, and I want to cover 4 different areas. I want to talk about why we should journal, supplies that we need to have on hand to make our journaling easier. And I also want to talk about techniques that we can use to make it fun and exciting, to make us want to do the journaling, and how do we get started journaling. So I feel like in 2022, I got a little bit lazy when it came to my journaling. Because I'm working on older albums like 2007, I feel like I would really easily say, oh, I don't remember what happened, so I'm not going to journal on this page, or I'm going to do very little. For me, I don't consider a page completely done till everything is adhered down, the journaling is done, and it's going into my book. So when I'm counting pages throughout the year, it has to have all that before I count it as a page complete. So I had to really kind of reflect on what is it that is stopping me from journaling. So there's lots of reasons, and everybody has their own reasons as to what they're going to journal or how they're going to journal on their album pages. But for me, my 3 biggest reasons are: 1, I don't know what to say. Okay, this goes back to the fact that I'm working on these older albums, and maybe I don't remember the story as well as maybe if I would have scrapped it right away. Number 2 is that I went through a phase where I didn't like my handwriting, and I thought, I don't want to handwrite. I don't want to mess up this beautiful page that I just completed. What if I make a mistake? I feel like I journal less because I don't like my own handwriting. In fact, I went through a period of time for about 4 or 5 years where I typed everything out, and that is a very good option. In fact, I do that. I still do that sometimes, but it does slow me down because I finish the layout and then I put it in a stack so that I can journal it later. And I'm not counting it until that journaling is on the page. So then I have to sit down one day and type up all the journaling for that stack. And that's what kind of slows me down a little bit. But that still is a very good option. If I'm not going to handwrite, then I'd much rather type and make sure that my story is told. And the third reason is that I try and get as many photos on my page as possible. And then at the end, I'm like, oh, I don't really have a spot for my journaling. So I feel like because I don't have room on the page, that I don't focus on my journaling as much as I would like to. In the comments, let me know, is there something that hangs you up with your journaling that prevents you from writing more on your album pages? Let me know, because I'm curious, is it just me? Am I the only one that doesn't like my handwriting, or is that what stops you as well? You know, the photos are really only one source of our story. And the journaling to me helps to explain those little details that maybe only I know about the story that, you know, that goes with the photo, but maybe only I know about it. It gives those names to the faces. It gives the information about the place that we are visiting or the event that's taking place. Some of life's most important stories aren't captured in the photos, and that's why I'm feeling like I really want to kick up my journaling a notch or two this year. I feel like there's 3 levels of journaling. There's a minimal, which would be name, date, and maybe the name of the event. The next one is what I like to call intermediate. And that's where you're going to give more information, those smaller details about the event, like where it was, when it was, what are some of the funny things that happened during that time. And then the third one is what I like to say is extensive. This would be like writing a story. And honestly, I've only done this a couple times in my albums. In my kids' baby albums, I wrote them a big letter in there about explaining the day and how the day went. But that's not where I want to get to. I want to take myself from the minimal level to intermediate and know that occasionally it's okay to just write a long story. And for me, that would probably be a typed up story that explains more detail. But I feel like I've been sitting in minimal for so long that I really want to this year focus on at least bumping myself up to the intermediate. What about you? Where do you feel like you fall on the journaling? Do you feel like you're a minimalist where you just put the dates and the names of the people in the photos? Or do you feel like you're somewhere between intermediate and extensive? I would love to know. So for me, the main purpose is telling my family story. And I would just love if somebody could open up my album, look at the photos, read the journaling, and they know what's taking place, and I don't feel like I have to be standing there with them explaining all those little details to them. And lastly, it's very interesting because I don't know if you know this, but it's been proven that journaling is good for mental health. Just journaling and writing your thoughts out on paper is very, very good for mental health. It helps process emotions. Putting those two together in a scrapbook is very therapeutic and really good for our mental health. So that's my goal, is to be more intentional about my journaling on my albums. So what supplies do we need to have on hand so that we can become more intentional about getting journaling onto our scrapbook pages? Now, these are just my ideas. I'm sure there are many more, but this is what I came up with. First and foremost, we need some kind of actual journal or a planner, somewhere where we can start now and start writing down events that are happening, daily events. That's why I tend to lean more towards my planner, because I can write down quickly little notes, and then I take my whole planner at the end of the year or my journal and I put it in with my memorabilia and my photos for that year, so that if I have any questions I can go back, or if somebody said something funny, I would write it down. And this is one huge area that I need to really start doing, is every day or at least weekly, jot down some events or things that happened, those small details that I'm not going to remember. So someplace that you can start today and write down your thoughts. And then I have a notepad or some index cards. This is going to be different than our journaling to remember events. This is more for when we're planning a page. Because I know for me, when I'm planning a page, I see photos, I remember things, I can jot it down. And if I'm making a page kit, I could jot down the ideas, stick this in with the pages and the photos. And then when it does come time to journal, I'll have some notes right there in my page kit with it. Also, maybe notes for, oh, I need to ask somebody something about that event, or, even I need to print another photo for that. So we need some kind of note-taking process for when we're actually building the page, or so when we're actually creating the page. Also, what I like to do is, since I'm handwriting, I want to make sure it's going to fit. So sometimes I start handwriting out my journaling on a piece of scratch paper before I put it into my album, so that I could avoid mistakes or misspellings, and especially to make sure that I'm going to have room on the designated space that I left for journaling. Okay, then of course we need some pens, and if you have different color pens, then that's great, but black goes with everything, so I recommend definitely having at least a black pen available. And make sure that it's a scrapbooking pen and that it is archival safe. We want to make sure that we have a supply of journaling boxes, or something that we can actually write our journaling on. Now, this is a map pack from Creative Memories, and don't forget about your digital kits. You can print these in any size, because these come in a 6x4 or a 6.5 by 4.5. So they're a little bit on the larger side. But remember, we can also use it as a clustering base as well. So we can put our journaling and some clustering. In this box, I like to keep scrap paper of the different Creative Memories lined cardstock, because this is great for journaling. So if I have a scrap, I just put it in here, and then when I need one, I have some small ones, and I don't have to cut into a big one. Currently, Creative Memories has 3 different types of lined cardstock. They have white, natural, and they have Spargo. Now, this is my last piece of white until my next order comes in, and I also have Spargo coming in. And when I get that, I'm sure you'll see that on videos. It's going to be in between these 2 colors. And then I have some black cardstock in my stash left over. They don't currently have a black cardstock, but I happen to have some of this. I use this quite often. I love the black, and then using silver or gold or white pens work really well on the black. Okay, you also want to look at some of the collection packs, because here's the Right On collection that just came out over Black Friday, and inside these kind of collection packs, they have graph paper, which is excellent for journaling, and then they included some straight out lined paper. Dot print is also a great one. Here's a piece that looks like a piece of notebook paper. This one is a dotted line piece, and then another type of graph paper. Also, some collections that you might already have on hand. Here's an excellent one with a lot of potential for journaling. It's fall, y'all. This one had a lot of pages in it that are perfect for journaling. Here's a ledger paper and some more graph. Ledger paper and graphs in different colors. So when we have packs like this, I always buy one just for journaling. And I'll cut this one up, and it will go in my box as well. But one of my main goals for this year is, let me bring this in here. I have a huge stash of journaling cards. So you'll see here just cards from decades ago, and sometimes they're not quite journaling cards, they're more decorative cards. So I'm going to be going through this basket this year and making sure that it's all just journaling cards, and if it's more of an embellishment, I'll be placing it into my embellishment folders. But I want to work on getting some of this stash used up some way, somehow. And like this, to me, is a perfect size journaling spot. Not too big and not too small. Okay, so I have a lot here that I want to conquer. But this is my only basket, so I feel pretty fortunate about that. So what else do we need? We need some kind of template. Now this one came with the Right On collection, and this will help me be able to draw lines, do some dot or bullet point journaling. So this will be really fun to use throughout the year. I will show some other templates that I have in mind, some older ones that were around for a while. And then I'm also going to use peekaboo pockets this year. I feel like since I have a bad habit of filling up my page with photos and not leaving enough room for journaling, I think the Peekaboo Pocket is going to be my best friend to intentionally adding the journaling to my page. And then lastly, one thing I'm going to keep on my desk at all times is some kind of edge punch. Now, I love this style because it looks like a notebook page. I've used it quite often in my pages, but we have to remember all of our edge punches we can use to create ourselves a homemade journaling spot, as well as a lot of our border making system cartridges can be used. So for example, here's one I did with the photography chain border making, where I just punched out one at the top and then left plenty of room to journal here. I also made this journaling spot from a digital art kit, and I just used a little pop of decoration down here with the punch. So lots of our punches can do that. Lots of edge punches are great for that. So what my plan is to always have an edge punch or some kind of tool sitting on my desk at all times or on my creative cart, so that I could just grab it and use it right away. And then maybe I'll rotate that around monthly or every couple months, or when I'm tired of whichever one I'm using. Okay, so let me clean this up and we'll get to some techniques. Hold on. So what kind of techniques can we do to keep our journaling fresh and to make sure that we are intentionally adding journaling to our pages? So I came up with a little list of things that we can do to keep it fun and creative at the same time, because doing scrapbooking is a right brain activity and doing journaling is a left brain activity. So if we do the creative process while we're scrapbooking, we can put them in a pile, and when our brain is more in a left side type mood, we can bring them all out and get all the journaling done. Or when your brain is in that mood, use those index cards we had earlier, write down your journaling and stick it in with your photos. That way, when you're scrapbooking, you have your journaling already done. First technique is, of course, you have to decide if you're going to use handwriting or typing it all up, or a combination of both. Remember, there is no wrong way to do it. The most important thing is that we're telling our story on our pages along with our photos. So other ideas that we can do, we can write a letter. We can make a list. That's where something like this type of template would come in handy, because we just write out bullet points and make a list. That is a very simple way to tell your story, is just with bullet points. Another fun way to do it is a timeline. Maybe across the page you can put a timeline of a trip, or a timeline of a child growing, some kind of timeline that helps to tell your story. I like sometimes to do it with quotes. So you find a nice quote that can tell your story very easily, and it's not even something that you have to come up with. Again, use those index cards, put the quote in with your photos. I like to sometimes make a little quiz, like questions I want to ask somebody else about the photo, so that I could remember. I write it down and I kind of interview them, and maybe you can even say what the question was and then how they responded. So there's a lot of fun different ways. You can write it down in your book as if you're giving advice. So maybe you're giving motherly advice, and you want to jot that down. That's always a good way to put it. Or life lessons, things that you want to pass down to your kids. All those can be written as journaling on our pages. So we just want to have fun with it, right? We want to maybe hide it behind photos or put it in little envelopes. Or we can make our own. That's fun. We can use our templates, and we can use vellum. All of those are fun ways to incorporate journaling onto our layouts. Okay, so how do we start the process of journaling on our pages? If you're liking this video so far, please take a moment to click that like button. I truly appreciate it, and I thank you for doing that. So how do we start this? Well, I would suggest just bringing out your notepad and your pen and just start writing. Sometimes once we just start writing and we get that pen to paper, then the journaling just comes out. The story starts coming fresh into our mind. What I find when I do this, I'm starting to write it down. I'm saying more than I thought I was going to do, and then I don't have enough room on my page. So we want to just start writing and write it all down. If you're really stumped, start with the basics: the who, the what, the where, when, how, and why. That's an easy place to start. Another thing that we can do to begin our journaling or enhance our journaling is to come up with a catchy title. Start using those fun titles to create the beginning of our story. So I'm going to have a video coming up that I think is going to be fun, where I'm going to separate and sort all my titles into what I think is going to be an easier way for me to find them and use them. So stay tuned for that. But for my journaling, and part of my focus this year is to incorporate catchy titles, or maybe a title that helps explain my story even more, okay? Because this title can tell a lot. Another way we can enhance or begin our journaling is by using these little word stickers. These are excellent ways. I'm sure if you've watched my videos, you've seen me use these kind of little words. These really help to tell a lot about your story without having to journal. And I love just placing these around the page just to catch the eye and point out different aspects of the story. So that's a great help as well. And like we talked about before, find those quotes. If you find a good quote, keep it in your journal or keep it on a note somewhere so that you know you can come back to it. Go back to those techniques that we talked about. Write a letter, or even a poem is a great way to journal. And most importantly, we want to make sure we're leaving room on our page to incorporate the journaling. Now, as I do my videos this year, I won't be making another special video about journaling. I will just be probably talking about it in different videos and making it more intentional and leaving spots on my pages. So I would love to know your thoughts about journaling, and if it's something that you need to focus more on, or is it something that you already do. I am really looking forward to doing this more in my albums and getting myself from that minimal level up to the more intermediate level. That's it. Until next time, take care, everybody, and we'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.